Hey guys, Nathan here with the Tech Series Podcast. For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to start my own podcast, but I could never figure out a way to do it. That's until I heard about Anchor. What is Anchor, you ask? Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast, just like I'm doing right now. So just go to anchor.fm/start or download the Anchor app and get started making your own podcast, and Anchor will distribute your podcast to other platforms so millions of other people can listen to your podcast. So remember, just go to anchor.fm/start and you can get started recording your podcast and join the dozens in the community just like me recording podcasts and getting it distributed by Anchor. I can't wait for you to start your podcast, and I can't wait to listen to it. Hey guys, the Tech Series Podcast is now easier to find. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Public, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Or you can also continue to listen to the Tech Series Podcast on the Anchor app. Just search Tech Series Podcast. Also, be sure to like and subscribe and rate the show. It helps me get out there to more people so more people can listen to this podcast and be involved in our community. Thanks again, guys. And remember, you can find the Tech Series Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Tech Series Podcast here on Anchor. I am your host, as always, Nathan Arredondo. I am so glad you guys are still here listening to this Texas boy ramble on about geek and pop culture. I know it's been a while. As you guys know, that's my excuse for everything. It's been a while, and I think I have a pretty good excuse. COVID-19 issues, and then of course me being back at work. I've been extremely busy with the amount of job responsibilities I have gained, but this is still a passion of mine. I really love doing this podcast, even if not a lot of people are listening. It's just something for me to do, and I enjoy doing it tremendously. And to anybody out there who's listening, I highly appreciate you listening to my podcast and just giving it a listen and listen to this Texas boy ramble on about random stuff that you'll probably listen to from people you follow on YouTube and Twitter and all that whatnot. But other than that, it's been a wild couple of months, guys. Me getting adjusted back into work, and just the news cycle, man. It's been difficult, just trying to find stuff to talk about, and there's not really all that much. I mean, we had that Comic-Con at Home event. I really didn't get a chance to check it out. The Funimation had their own type of at-home convention. I know Crunchyroll has one coming up here pretty soon. But other than that, it's news trickles in and out. Right now, the only thing we are currently looking forward to here in the next couple months is the second season of The Mandalorian that's supposed to drop. I know that the Marvel Disney Plus shows are still on schedule to drop one later this year. I know that some other places they're starting to pick up filming again, or gonna start filming here pretty soon. So it's just a crazy time. And then of course, if you're here living in the United States, things are just not looking all that great for us right now, especially in a lot of states, especially here in Texas. But I'm not here for that Debbie Downer stuff. This is a podcast where you come to just listen to me ramble on about nonsense and stuff. But other than that, it's been a crazy ride. So I figured, with the pop culture news cycle kind of being where it is right now, that I kind of don't want to talk about the stuff that's going on, because what can I say that other people haven't? I mean, I could give my opinion on a whole bunch of stuff, but who's really going to listen to the single guy talking about all this? But uh, I do have another podcast project that I'm hoping to get off the ground here pretty soon. It's something more work related, but it's still another podcast, and hopefully, what I've learned on how doing podcast here can help me out with that on that project. But what I decided to do is a little different from my, each week I would, or every other week, or whenever I drop an episode, I would, report on a couple topics in the news and in the world of pop culture, comics, all that stuff. But, I think I'm going to change it up with these next couple episodes, just so you guys can get to know me a little bit better. I think the next few episodes that I do drop, or when I do drop, it's gonna kind of focus on my fandom, the stuff that I'm really into. From Marvel video games, just TV shows in general. But I think the big one I'm going to start with, of course, is my number one fandom, and it's Power Rangers. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Power Rangers is still out in the zeitgeist. They thought it ended back when Mighty Morphin last aired in the early 90s, but no, it's still around. Still around, 27 years strong, and it's something. So I think in today's episode, which hopefully I can talk hours about Power Rangers in general, but I'm trying to keep it short, try to cap it at the 35 minute mark. But for the most part, I think this is something that I need to do just so that my audience can kind of get an idea of the stuff that I'm into, and where that passion comes from. And so I believe this is going to kind of be a mix of Power Rangers and Tokusatsu. We can have one without the other, so I'm going to talk about both. So a lot of it's going to be about Power Rangers, but I will talk about Tokusatsu, like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider in general as well, because that came in later in my life. But without Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, we wouldn't have Power Rangers in general. So that's what this episode is going to be about today, and I hope you guys enjoy it for what it is. It's just getting a look into who I am and the stuff that I like, and figures that Power Rangers wallpaper is up right now on my computer screen. But it's just, I feel like it's time to just put me out there, and I just hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I hope that you can kind of get an insight into who I am and the things that I'm into. So, as most of you know, or I hope most of you know, Power Rangers came out in the early 90s. It premiered, it's going to believe 27 years ago this month, in 1993 on the Fox Kids network, produced by Saban Entertainment. And, in 1993, I was a 2-year-old boy. You do the math on how old I am and how old I'm going to be. But yeah, I was 2 years old. And the funny thing is I don't really remember much about watching the first season of Power Rangers when I was that young. The reason why I can remember a lot of the stuff from the first season of Power Rangers is because I caught episodes later on when they were, when it was bought up by Disney, and the old Disney, I think it's Disney XD now, but it used to be Jetix, and they would show they would have their Power Rangers Generations marathons where they would run through all those seasons, and that's how I kind of caught up a lot of Mighty Morphin. And so yeah, so I think I really started paying more attention to Power Rangers around the second season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This, of course, is the season that Jason, Trini, and Zach left. We got Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. Tommy became the White Ranger. We got the Thunder Zords. Lord Zed was introduced. Whole bunch of stuff happened, and I've been a fan ever since. I equate it to being my Power Ranger, or not. Well, it is Power Rangers, but I equate it to being my Star Wars. or my Marvel or my DC. It's the superhero stuff I got into as a kid. I always wanted to watch Power Rangers. No matter when it was on, I always wanted to watch it. I had to have a toy. I had to have the Megazords. Um, One Halloween, I was dressed as the Gold Zeo Ranger. I had the costume. I even had the Gold Ranger staff because I gotten that for my birthday. And like my fandom runs deep. And if you could be in my room right now, you'd understand why. I got a lot of Power Rangers memorabilia here in my room, and it's crazy. But yeah, my fandom for Power Rangers runs deep. It's just ingrained in my soul. I know it's cheesy and it's something that's like, how can you be into that? It's the same thing with anybody who's like, why can like Star Wars or Marvel, DC, or Dark Horse, Image Comics, like any type of pop culture fandom has a following, and I believe Power Rangers has a big following. It's not as big as Marvel, it's not big as DC, it's not big as Star Wars, not as definitely not as big as Harry Potter, but it has its fandom. And as a kid growing up, probably when I got into middle school, when I was around 12 years old, 12, I got into middle school, I was around 11, in sixth grade. But between that time, in middle school, I started to play sports, and things change because you tend to grow up. You're not as a boy, and there's things like when you turn a certain age, you're not supposed to watch cartoons anymore, not supposed to be into this stuff anymore, and it was tough. Being somebody who played football, which is seen as the manliest of man sports. It's a gladiatorial sport. We're putting our bodies on the line. And here I am, a football player, and I am a huge fan of Power Rangers. For the longest time, I tried to keep that to myself. I never talked about it. I never brought it up after I got into middle school. I have friends who are still fans of Power Rangers, but it's like when you get to that certain age as a kid, you just don't want people knowing about it. And it was like my closet thing. It's something I didn't want people to find out, especially when I got into high school. When I moved right before high school, and I found out I wasn't going to be going to the same high school as a lot of the people I grew up with, and I was going to a new environment, and I was the outsider coming to this high school, and of course, 14 years old, all the way till now, I was still watching Power Rangers. I'd keep up with it, I'd watch it, and just I would. It was my thing to watch, and it was hard, especially when I was in high school, to not let that come out because I had a difficult time in high school. People were like, tell me like, could probably look at it, it's like, but you were a football player. You played football. Yeah, but just because I played sports doesn't mean like people don't harass you or you're not a target for bullying. I was. I had a lot of friends in high school, but it's just some has just made high school miserable for me. So my escape was coming home and on the weekends watching Power Rangers and just getting wrapped up in that world. Getting involved in the stories with the characters and just understanding where these people are coming from. And for the most part, Power Rangers has been like, it's been my biggest escape. I can put on an episode of Power Rangers and just not give a care in the world. I even these past few years, the seasons haven't been all that great. Beast Morphers has probably been the best overall as a whole season in the last few years. Power Rangers Dino Charge, which came on a few years ago, their first half of their season of that series was really good, and the second part of it kind of was mixed bag for me. But it's just, but even with that, even with how not good they were with some of them, I still got lost in that world. I still, wish I could be in that world. I wish, when I was a kid, every kid when at the time, like I wish I could have been a Power Ranger, saving the world, helping out people, doing what's right. And, people don't give Power Rangers a lot of credit, but for the most part, Power Rangers sent out a lot of great messages to young kids. They were very behind, kids doing the right thing. And I still believe you can learn stuff from Power Rangers watching it. But, it's just something that, like, I can't really explain my fandom for it. It's just something I fell in love with. And overall, it's just, I don't think I will ever let go of being a fan of Power Rangers. I know it's like some people can drop off and like not, just stop being a fan, or not being a fan, but just, not caring anymore and moving on to something else. But for me, it's like, I can't. I have to be, it's like, there's a lot of, people I follow and listen to, and they are like fans of Star Wars, and like with the controversy, of course, with Star Wars has been around for the past couple of years. Even if like they will still be a fan of it, no matter through the darkest times of whatever's going on with Star Wars. And that's the same for me. Like Power Rangers, I will always be a cheerleader or rah-rah person for just Power Rangers. I want to see it succeed. I can't wait to show it to my kids when I eventually have kids. I want, I believe Power Rangers is a good fandom, and it doesn't get enough credit for being a launcher of superhero fandom in the United States. But overall, in my opinion, it's just so amazing and so great. And I, it's just, I don't know. It's just it's a feeling. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It just caught me at the right time. I was the perfect age for it. And, it's like, if I could change some things about what happened to me as I grew up, I would like push myself so much to be like, be a writer or try to work on the set, or, do something with Power Rangers. But of course, things happen, and I didn't because it was like I was ashamed. I didn't want people to know about it. I didn't want people to understand where my fandom was coming from. I didn't want them to make fun of me on top of everything else that I was already being made fun of for stuff in school. So it was hard, and Power Rangers was always an escape, and I would never trade that in for anything. If I was stuck on a deserted island for so long, just give me my Power Ranger box sets that I have, and a DVD player, and a TV, and I could that's over 1,000+ episodes of Power Rangers that I could watch, and that would get me through. But yeah, it's just I'll even tell you this. I had a grudge against Oprah when I was younger. For anybody who doesn't know, Oprah Winfrey, billionaire, and the entrepreneur in the industry and entertainment industry, had an amazing talk show for so long. But I had the hugest grudge against Oprah. And it wasn't for anything, what she did or said. It's because her show came on at the same exact time as Power Rangers. And at the time, we only had one TV in the house that I could watch, and it was in the living room. And every time I would want to watch Power Rangers, my mom was watching Oprah. She would say, "I'm watching Oprah. I'm not going to change it," and I would get highly upset. And I was like, I don't like Oprah. She's ruining Power Rangers for me. And I would be like, and I was like, I can't like. And then when my mom would finally tell me, it's like, okay, you could change the channel now, and I'll change it. And then the credits for Power, and I missed the episode, and I was so upset. And then I was so happy when we finally got our own TV in our bedroom that I was able to watch Power Rangers again. I didn't have to worry about, my mom watching Oprah because we had our own TV. But, it's just that's how deep in love I was with Power Rangers and still am. Um, as I got older and started, making money and being able to buy stuff, I have a big collection. I collect SH figure arts. I have the entire Mighty Morphin line. I still have my original Dragonzord and Megazord. It's actually the black and gold Megazord, the original one, not the legacy one that came out a few years ago. This is the original one that came out in the early 90s that my grandmother gave to me. I still have my Mega Voyager, the Super Zero Megazord, and then I've recently picked up the San Diego Comic Con exclusive. When Samurai came out, they had these exclusive figure arts where they're like this metallic uh, paint, and it's the Super Samurai Red Ranger, and yeah, and then also, yeah, and of course I have my my pop figures. I have a lot of autographs. That's the nice thing, is when you get older and you start going to cons, you start meeting Power Rangers. I got a whole bunch of autographs, pictures. My biggest and my favorite picture is a few years ago here in Houston at a convention. The entire Time Force cast was at a convention. I got to meet all of them. They did this thing where if you got an autograph from each and every one of them, you got to take a group picture with the entire cast, which was a big deal for me because Time Force is my favorite season of Power Rangers, and getting to take a picture with all these people that I admired as a kid was just amazing. So, in general, that's kind of my fandom of Power Rangers. Like I said, I could probably talk for hours about this, but I'm trying to keep this podcast pretty short. So I'm gonna take a quick break here, guys. On the other side of the break, I'm going to still talk about Power Rangers, but I'm gonna go on the other side. I'm gonna go across the Pacific and tell you how I got into Tokusatsu, aka Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, the biggest two franchises of the Tokusatsu genre in Japan, and how that's kind of influenced me more, and how my fandom has not only grown from American Toku, which is Power Rangers, to Tokusatsu in general. So stick around, guys, after the break, and I'll catch you there. Hey guys, Nathan here with the Tech Series Podcast. You like the music you hear at the beginning of each episode? Then go over to bensound.com. Bensound.com is a great place to find royalty-free music for you to use in your multimedia projects, from YouTube videos to websites and animation. So just head on over to bensound.com and find the music that is fit for you. Hey guys, you fan of Power Rangers? You fan of Tokusatsu? Then go on over to my TeePublic store. There you'll find some amazing designs drawn by myself to celebrate the fandom of Power Rangers and Tokusatsu. You can find shirts that are representative of different Power Ranger seasons, or Super Sentai and Kamen Rider in general. Any purchase helps me out tremendously, guys, and I highly appreciate it. Also, please share the designs with your friends so they can take a look at all the amazing designs I have to offer. So, again, if you're a fan, head on over to my TeePublic store at www.teepublic.com/user/RangerFanNathan9. You won't be disappointed by the designs, and you'll look great in them. Hey guys, welcome back from that short but hopefully informative commercial break. So when I last left off, I was just pretty much getting into why, in general, I love Power Rangers, why the fandom is a part of me, just the difficulties of being a fan, and adolescence in life. Continuing on from that, it's just Power Rangers in general has just been something that, I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to put into words how you feel about a fandom. But I guess it also has to do with like just my love of giant robots and fight and superheroes, and I'm into Godzilla because of Power Rangers. I love that giant monster and the kaiju. Power Rangers, it's just in general, it's just hard for me to explain really why it's just something that's been stuck with me for so long. It's, you can't really explain the things you love so much. It's because you love it, and it's something that's near and dear to your heart. And Power Rangers has always been near and dear to my heart. It's something that, I was never discouraged from watching or seeing, and my parents were happy that I had something that I was very passionate about and something that I loved, and something that was just really good to me. But of course, as we all know, we wouldn't have Power Rangers in general if it wasn't for a certain tokusatsu genre called Super Sentai. And for those of you who don't know, Super Sentai is basically Japanese Power Rangers, but it's not called that. It's Super Sentai. It's been around since the 1970s, and it's a long running show. I believe they're coming up on their 45th anniversary here pretty soon. So it's then their current season is Mashin Sentai Kitameja, and it's basically Power Rangers, but Japan came up with it first. So I was always aware later on that Power Rangers wasn't entirely American, I guess, or I'd always heard that it was a show taken from another show, and then of course, as I got older and with YouTube, I started seeing clips from the Japanese version, that's what I called it. I called it the Japanese version, but no, that's wrong. The Japanese version is actually the original version, and it's the American version that is what's right. But I definitely discovered clips of what Mighty Morphin was based off of, which is Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, which was I believe their 15th season or anniversary season. I might be wrong. Please correct me on that in the comments below. But yeah, that's what Power Rangers is. Mighty Morphin and was based off of was the first season. First season of Mighty Morphin is based off Zyuranger, and then the second season Mighty Morphin is based off of Gosei Sentai Dairanger, and then the third season of Power Rangers and the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers miniseries is based off of Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. And it's weird because if you look at it, like the monsters, the Zord fights, all the same except for the suits. They kept the same suits. I never had a problem with it until I kind of got older and I started watching Super Sentai a little more, and be like, man, I kind of wish they had gotten the Dairanger suits. I think they would have looked so much better, and it would have been more cohesive with the White Ranger suit, because it would have been more matching, because you could always tell, especially when we were younger, that it's like the White Ranger suit doesn't really fit with that Dino theme anymore. I mean, why did they have two Tiger Rangers on the team? You had the Saber-tooth Tiger, and then you have the White Tiger. So it's just, and I think it's because Dairanger is very heavily kung fu based in their martial arts fighting, and it's a show that's based in Chinese mythology a little bit, so it kind of makes sense now when you think about it. But yeah, and then I could rattle off, guys. I can tell you what season this Power Ranger season. What's the Japanese? What's the Super Sentai? I'll tell you the Super Sentai. But let me kind of go into my my fandom for Super Sentai now. I think it was mainly around college when I started going to college, and I was in college, but I transferred to another college. So after I transferred and I was at my university, it's just you living in the dorm, you got to find stuff to do. I mean, I really hadn't made friends. I had a buddy who was going up there, but we really hadn't started hanging out yet. So I asked myself, what can I watch? I was still watching Power Rangers, but it's like, just trying to find things to watch. I really wasn't into Netflix at the time. But I came across this review on YouTube. It was a review of I believe it's Jukin Sentai Geki Ranger. I could be wrong, by Easy Rider, and his show Toku Time. And, I never had seen an episode of Super Sentai. I really haven't. The only thing I've ever seen were clips of, Zoo Ranger, and that's about it. And I never really seen a full episode. Um, Never sought out any episodes. And yeah, he did a review on the movie. I think it was the movie I saw. Review he did of Geki Ranger, and it's just I saw it and it interested me so much, and I'm like, you know what? Let me see if I can find some Super Sentai episodes, and this was in a time when you could upload almost anything to YouTube without it being taken down. The copyright strike stuff wasn't in as dominant as it is today, but you could find stuff on there, and I discovered this one channel that had all these episodes of Super Sentai series called Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger. Gokaiger is the 35th anniversary season of Super Sentai, and it was the first Super Sentai series I watched all the way through. It was amazing. I thought it was, it's like this. Wow, this is my introduction to Super Sentai, and like, what I think I think a lot of people ask, like, what should be your first? What if you were to suggest a Super Sentai series to a friend to watch? What would be one you would introduce them to? And of course, people would give their different answers. I would honestly tell people to watch Gokaiger. Now, over time, Gokaiger is kind of like seen as overrated. The story kind of wanes off towards the end. But the reason why I say you should watch Gokaiger as your first Super Sentai series is because of the difference when they do their transformations into the different Super Sentai teams. It gets you curious, and I will admit that when I was watching, I was like, oh, that show seems interesting. I want to check that out. And, I want to check out this one. I want to see this one. And that's what happened. I ended up checking out other Super Sentai series because of Gokaiger. So that's why I say Gokaiger is my favorite Super Sentai season, because it got me into watching other seasons and checking them out. And over time, it's just, I started building up another fandom. I got into another fandom. I started following people who were into this as well. And, it's crazy how this will change you. And I'll be honest, I never saw this coming for me to enjoy this product as well. I love Super Sentai. I think they tell great stories. There's recently Shout Factory partnered up with Pluto TV. They have this TV channel on Pluto TV called Tokusatsu, where they show old school Toku. They recently showed the most recent stuff they're adding is the most recent Kamen Rider movie called Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever, which is very recent. I think it came out about 2 years ago, so it's a fairly recent movie. But overall, it's just like, Super Sentai is just something different. It's definitely something my parents probably would never have let me watch. The amount of death and blood and people put in hospitals in these shows is astounding, because I never would have thought something like that. That's a kid's show. Like, this is a kid's show and that dude's bleeding? It's like, oh my God. And it just goes to show how TV standards for here in the United States and Japan are completely different for each other. But, it's just, and then like, going back to Tokusatsu, they had the show called Let's Talk Toku, and for their season finale, they're adding videos of fans, saying why they love Toku, why they love it, why they got into it, stuff like that. And for me, it's the same thing with Power Rangers. It's just another form of storytelling and superheroes in general. It's another medium for us to indulge in and enjoy. And it's, it's an escape. I keep saying this, but it is such an escape. We need escape in this world, especially like right now. You There's so much pain and suffering going on in this world that you know you just want to find a means of escape. Whether it's in Star Wars, Marvel, DC, any type of hero genre, video games, anime, and Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and Power Rangers all fall into that category as well. And I'll even mention this too. And I mentioned Kamen Rider and the Kamen Rider movie. I've discovered Kamen Rider, and Kamen Rider is on a different ball game from Super Sentai because Kamen Rider is just a singular hero or heroes fighting, monsters, of course. But there's no giant robots, and it's a little more darker. It's a little on the, well, not all of them are dark series, but it's a little on the edgier side, more adult. I would say more adult, probably more like teenager type deal. But Kamen Rider is it's another animal too when it comes to superheroes. And I always praise that everybody can find some type of superhero to follow or some super kind of superhero to be a fan of. And I'm just happy that I can have my Power Rangers, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider. It's a fandom that I am happy that I was discovered. It's a fandom that I'm proud to be a part of. And I can't tell you like the things that I see and the people I've met and the people I talk to that, just it's surprising. And I remember I was watching this one review show and they get to send in fan stuff. And I sent in a fan email and I said, for the longest time I thought I was alone. I didn't know there were still people out there. I didn't know there were people out there who were like me, fans of this genre and, not worried about what people are going to say about it because you're in a fandom, you're in a kind of safe space. And, I'm proud of it. And like, I'm not afraid to admit it anymore. Is it a little embarrassing sometimes? Yeah, but if you know me, then you know me. If you don't judge me because we're all fans of something, whether it's a TV show, a book, video game, what have you, but we're all fans. And I would say Power Rangers is my ultimate fandom. I'm fans of so many other things, but Power Rangers is like I would die on the sword for Power Rangers. I would take the hit for Power Rangers. I will defend Power Rangers to the max against anybody. Because to me it's just a genre that I believe doesn't get as much respect as it really should because of this different avenues. I mean, it gave us our first multiracial team of superheroes to the general public, live action anyways. It gave us our first black superhero on TV, our first Asian superhero on TV. And I'm just, happy to be a fan of this franchise and as well as Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. And, that's there's really nothing more I can say about it. It's just being part of a fandom is really important right now, and Power Rangers is my key fandom, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I hope this gives you some kind of insight into how I feel about this this franchise. And you may not feel the same about the way I do, but you may feel that way about another thing, TV show, music, movies, whatever. You may have that same passion that I have about Power Rangers, and it's okay. It's nothing wrong with being a fan of something or to express your love of that fandom. Be proud of it, embrace it, and never be afraid to hide it. Be you and be proud of the things you are a fan of. And with that, guys, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Tech Series Podcast. Thank you so much, so much for listening. I hope you found this episode a little informative or kind of getting to know me and, understanding where I'm coming from and the type of things that I'm a fan of. And this is what it's going to be like for the next couple of episodes here. I just wanted to, start off with the one I'm the most passionate about and let you get a little insight into the world of Nathan Arredondo. And that's who I am. This is my podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please share with your friends. And also, please give it a like. Wherever you're listening to it, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, on my YouTube channel, Google Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, or if it's here on Anchor. The more and more you guys watch, the more and more I get out there to other people who are going to listen to this podcast. So thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Please stay safe out there. Remember, mask up, guys. It is not only for your protection, it's for protection of everybody else out there. We can get over this. Just simple, wear your mask when you go out. Be safe out there. Practice good social distancing, guys. And that's all I'm gonna have to say about that. Again, be safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. Have an awesome rest of your day. And thanks again for listening to the Tech Series Podcast here on Anchor. Again, I am Nathan Arredondo. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, guys, anybody can be a hero. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll catch you next time.